Larimer, Northern Territory. Population 11. A blink-and-you-miss-it speck on the Stuart Highway, swallowed by red dirt and heat. In December 2017, this remote outback town was thrust into national headlines when one of its few residents, 70-year-old Paddy Moriarty, vanished without a trace, along with his red kelpie, Kelly. Paddy was no recluse. An Irish-born jokester with a handlebar mustache, he was a fixture at the local Pink Panther pub, known for his beers, banter, and occasional stunts, including riding a motorized cooler down the main road. But beneath the charm was friction. Paddy had feuded for years with several neighbours, especially Fran Hodgetts, the tea house owner across the road. Their animosity over meat pies and property lines had become notorious in town, and bitter. When Paddy and his dog disappeared after leaving the pub one evening, the town turned inward. No tracks, no clues, just growing whispers. Feels like Wolf Creek. What followed was a strange and troubling mystery that drew in police, coroners, journalists, and the public, and uncovered secrets Larimer could no longer bury. Welcome to Bad Things. Join us as we unravel the disappearance of Paddy Moriarty and what most likely happened. In a town of 11, everyone notices when someone's missing. On December 16, 2017, Paddy Moriarty left the Pink Panther Hotel in Larimer just before sunset, a cooked chicken in hand, his red kelpie Kelly balanced on the back of his quad bike. He told the pub's owner he'd be back the next morning to borrow a lawnmower, but he never returned. That evening was unremarkable. Paddy had drunk his usual beers, maybe 8 or 10, but wasn't intoxicated, according to those who saw him last. He rode across the highway to his modest home, where evidence later showed he made it inside. The chicken was found in the microwave, half-eaten. Dog food had been poured into Kelly's bowl. A meal was pulled from the freezer, but something interrupted him before he could eat. When he didn't show up the next morning, no one panicked. But by the following evening, pub owner Barry Sharp became concerned and went to Paddy's house. The quad bike and car were there. So were his hat, wallet, reading glasses, and medications. All items Paddy wouldn't leave behind unless he planned to come right back. Kelly was gone. So was Paddy. Sharp waited one more day before calling the police. On December 19th, a missing persons report was filed. The nearest officer was 80 kilometers away in Mataranka. He arrived the next day and, along with locals, began searching the area. Paddy's regular walking tracks, the scrub, the yard. No trace. Investigators found no signs of a struggle, but everything in the house suggested Paddy had returned home after the pub, started his nightly routine, and vanished shortly after. The following days brought a full-scale search. Police, Aboriginal trackers, volunteers, and a tactical response group combed over 85 square kilometers of bushland by foot, vehicle, and helicopter. They looked in old wells and war-era mine shafts. Nothing. On December 23rd, the search was formally suspended. Given the conditions and the time elapsed, the chances of Paddy being alive were almost nil. With survival ruled out, attention turned to the possibility of foul play. On Christmas Day, police interviewed every single resident of Larimer. They also began searching properties and vehicles. One car was seized and forensically examined, but yielded no evidence. Around this time, police began secretly recording certain residents' homes and vehicles. In the days that followed, investigators returned to Paddy's home, trying to piece together the timeline. The chicken in the microwave was time-stamped to the evening of December 16th. Dinner was pulled from the freezer but left uncooked. His routine had been interrupted. On January 4th, police shifted their search to the town dump. a site Paddy frequented on morning walks with Kelly. They used excavators to sift through piles of ash and trash, mindful that residents usually burned their rubbish before discarding it. But again, there was nothing. No bones, no blood, no clothing, no collar. It was as if both man and dog had been erased. The absence of Kelly became one of the most critical clues. In most missing person cases, a dog might return or be spotted scavenging nearby, but she vanished alongside her owner, with no sightings ever reported. Police issued a public appeal for information on the dog, noting she was friendly, about 1 year old, and very attached to Paddy. A local mechanic put it bluntly, "Find a dog, you find Paddy." Throughout 2018, the investigation continued quietly behind the scenes. Police pursued leads, monitored residents with hidden microphones, and slowly built a case. That same year, a coronial inquest was opened. Testimonies were taken. The story spread nationally and internationally, fueled by a Walkley Award-winning podcast, Lost in Larimer, and later a book and documentary. Still, no body was found. No arrests were made. By 2021, a $250,000 reward was posted, seeking information that could lead to a conviction. It brought renewed attention, but no breakthroughs. Finally, in April 2022, Northern Territory Coroner Greg Kavanagh delivered his findings. He concluded that Paddy Moriarty was dead, and that he had likely been killed the night he disappeared, as a direct result of the long-standing feud with his neighbours. He named no specific perpetrator. Coroners are prohibited from doing so, but his words were clear. Paddy's death occurred in the context of the town's most bitter conflict. The most explosive moment came when police played covert recordings made inside a suspect's home. Audio in which a man believed to be Owen Laurie, the tea house gardener, was heard muttering to himself about hitting Paddy with a hammer, killer-rating him, and disposing of the weapon. He also mentioned killing dogs. When confronted with the tapes at the inquest, Laurie denied the voice was his, then invoked his right to silence. The case was referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions, but in June 2024 it was announced that no charges would be laid. The evidence, while suggestive, was judged to be circumstantial and insufficient for trial. Today, Larimer remains much the same. Dusty, quiet, strange. Paddy's home still stands. The Pink Panther still pours beer. The tea house still sells pies. But the man who used to ride his quad bike down the road, and the dog who rode behind him, are still gone. And their disappearance remains one of Australia's most unsettling outback mysteries. The disappearance of Paddy Moriarty and his red Kelpie Kelly left more than just a vacuum in Larimer. It created a mystery that spawned theories both credible and bizarre. With so few people, so few clues, and so much history, it was perhaps inevitable that suspicion would fall inward. But not all suspicions pointed in the same direction. Below are the major theories that have emerged, from official conclusions to campfire gossip. Number 1. The feud turned fatal. From the beginning, this was the theory authorities focused on, not out of prejudice, but because it fit the facts. Paddy had a long, well-documented feud with his neighbour, Fran Hodgetts, owner of the Devonshire Tea House. She lived directly across the highway from Paddy and often accused him of harassment, vandalism and slander. He started pinching stuff, damaging my property, telling customers not to come in, Fran told the inquest. She also alleged that Paddy poisoned her plants and left a dead kangaroo under her floorboards. According to Fran, everything escalated after she banned him from her business. In turn, Paddy loudly ridiculed her and her pies. In a 2011 interview, he declared, "Fran's got the worst pies." I used to go over there, and the dog wouldn't eat Fran's pies. By late 2017, Fran had taken on a live-in gardener, Owen Laurie, a 70-year-old former rodeo rider and bushman, to help maintain the property and keep an eye out. Laurie reportedly told Fran, "If anyone touches my garden, it will be the first murder in Larimer." At the inquest, recordings secretly obtained by police were played, in which a man, allegedly Laurie, muttered to himself, "I killerated old Paddy, struck him on the head, and killerated him." In another, the voice brags, "They didn't find the hammer." Laurie denied the voice was his, but to many, the implication was obvious. Despite this, no charges were laid. The NT Director of Public Prosecutions ultimately deemed the evidence insufficient. Without a body, confession, or forensic trail, no one could be brought to trial. Still, this remains the official theory, that the feud between Paddy and his neighbours turned deadly, and that the answer lies just across the road. Number 2. Someone else in town did it. While most attention focused on the feud with Fran and Owen, some have suggested that another local might have taken matters into their own hands. In a town of just a dozen people, tempers can simmer quietly for years. One such resident was Barry Cookie Burke, a reclusive man who lived in a caravan and was known for keeping to himself. He once described Paddy as his own worst enemy and admitted, "I'll be honest with you, I felt like breaking the guy's neck sometimes." But he added, it never happened. Police interviewed all residents on Christmas Day 2017. No one was arrested. Cookie was quickly cleared and is not considered a serious suspect, but his comments illustrate how divisive Paddy could be. Even some who liked him admitted he could be abrasive. Another local, Billy Hodgetts, Fran's ex-husband, was actually a long-time friend of Paddy's. He told ABC, "I think someone has killed him for sure. If he was going somewhere, he would have taken his car, and he never went out without his hat." Billy was not considered a suspect. This theory hinges on the idea that perhaps someone else, fed up with Paddy's antics, acted alone. But unlike the Fran-Owen feud, no other known disputes in town had reached such a volatile point. Number 3. Misadventure in the bush. Could Paddy have simply wandered off and succumbed to the elements? Early in the investigation, this was treated as a possibility. The bush around Larimer is dangerous, filled with sinkholes, mine shafts, snakes, and intense heat. But the area had been combed extensively. Aboriginal trackers, helicopters, search dogs, all found nothing. Police ruled out natural hazards like sinkholes. Paddy's house showed signs he had returned home after the pub. The cooked chicken was in the microwave, dog food was in the bowl, and dinner was halfway prepared. His wallet, hat, and glasses were inside. His quad bike was parked. As Detective Matt Allen said, "The evidence is not pointing to misadventure or a suicide." More puzzling still, Kelly the dog never returned. If Paddy had collapsed or died nearby, Kelly, a loyal Kelpie, would likely have stayed by his side or come back to town. That she too disappeared points away from accident and toward deliberate disappearance. Number 4. A random killer on the Stuart Highway. Larimer sits along the Stuart Highway, a long and lonely stretch of road cutting through the Northern Territory. Over the years, it's been the backdrop to multiple crimes, including the infamous 2001 murder of backpacker Peter Falconio. Could a stranger passing through have killed Paddy? Police did not ignore the idea. They identified and questioned all travellers known to have passed through the area around the time of Paddy's disappearance. None were flagged. No suspicious activity was reported. No one saw Paddy after he left the pub, and there's no evidence he left his property again. To believe this theory, one would have to assume that a stranger somehow lured Paddy from his home, killed him and his dog, and then vanished without leaving a trace. As Sergeant Allen put it, there's no evidence that a passing motorist had any involvement. Still, it remains a possibility, albeit a remote one. Number 5. Paddy vanished on purpose. Another theory occasionally raised in media coverage and by amateur sleuths is that Paddy disappeared by choice, either to escape Larimer or to start anew somewhere else. But everything left behind contradicts this. Paddy's bank accounts were untouched. His passport remained at home. So did his car, quad bike, dentures, medication, and prepaid electricity. His hat, which he never left the house without, was inside. There was no sign that Paddy was planning to leave or was in distress. Friends said he had no desire to return to Ireland or go anywhere else. He was, by all accounts, deeply attached to his dog, his beer routine, and the pub. It also strains belief that he would have harmed his dog or abandoned her. If Paddy left of his own accord, what happened to Kelly? The idea that Paddy walked away from everything and managed to disappear completely is, at best, highly improbable. Number 6. A bizarre end. Crocodiles, meat pies, or worse. Some theories are darker and more outlandish. Over the years, Larimer has inspired gruesome speculation that Paddy was fed to the pub's pet crocodiles, which were kept in a pen out back. That he was dismembered and turned into meat pies, sold at Fran's tea house. That wild animals, pigs or dingoes, dragged him off. Even in jest, that aliens took him. The crocodile theory was investigated. Police examined the pen. There was no evidence of human remains, and the crocs were too small to consume an adult human unnoticed. The meat pie theory, likely born from morbid humour, has no basis in fact. When asked about it, Fran Hodgetts told the Washington Post, "It'd be a bloody big mess. I only do camel, buffalo, and crocodile, not human." Wild animals were also considered early on, but searches turned up no blood, clothing, or tracks. And again, no trace of Kelly. These ideas, while memorable, offer no practical evidence. They remain part of the case's folklore, not its facts. Each of these theories paints a different picture. A crime of passion, a hidden accident, a vanishing act, or something far stranger. And while the feud theory has garnered the most official support, it has its own unanswered questions. Why no blood? Why no body? Could the recordings be misinterpreted? Could someone else be protecting the truth? In the next section, we'll step back and examine the evidence more closely, comparing motives, means, and the sequence of events, to ask the central question of this case. What most likely happened to Paddy Moriarty? There's no mystery about when Paddy Moriarty disappeared. December 16, 2017. The question is what happened between the moment he walked his dog across the highway from the pub and the moment he didn't come back. 6 years on, that window, likely just a matter of minutes, remains a black hole. But it's not empty. There are facts, there are voices, there are patterns. And the simplest answer, the one that requires the fewest assumptions and fits the known behavior of everyone involved, is that Paddy Moriarty was killed in a moment of anger by Owen Laurie, the man who lived across the road. Let's break that down. The likely perpetrator, Owen Laurie. Among all possible suspects, only one left behind what sounds like a confession. Owen Laurie. In secretly recorded conversations captured by police just weeks after Paddy's disappearance, a man believed to be Laurie is heard muttering to himself, "I killerated old Paddy. I effing killerated him. Struck him on the head and killerated him. They didn't find a hammer. I kill pup dogs." These weren't statements made to police under pressure. They were private ramblings, caught while Laurie was alone, talking to himself, his dog, or his guitar. He wasn't performing for anyone. The tone was casual, even sing-song. One officer described it as like someone recounting a memory. When questioned, Laurie claimed, "I don't think that's me." Later, he refused to answer further questions and invoked his right to silence. Occam's razor tells us not to invent new characters or imagine elaborate plots when someone already close to the victim, with motive and opportunity, has all but described the crime. Motive and escalation. Laurie had lived in Larimer just a few months. He had no personal history with Paddy until he took a job with Fran Hodgetts, the tea shop owner who had feuded bitterly with Paddy for years. That feud was about pies, poisoned plants, property, boundaries, and, depending on who you ask, reputation. Fran told police she feared Paddy. Paddy told anyone who'd listen that Fran's food wasn't fit for dogs. Laurie, hired to protect and assist Fran, became part of that feud by proxy. He reportedly said, months before Paddy vanished, "If anyone touches my garden, it'll be the first murder in Larimer." It might have sounded like a joke, but when the coroner later reviewed the case, he wrote, "Paddy was killed in the context of, and likely due to, the ongoing feud he had with his nearest neighbours. This wasn't a random crime. It was personal. Opportunity and setup." Paddy left the pub at dusk on December 16, 2017, with Kelly riding behind him. He went home, heated a chicken in the microwave, poured food into the dog's bowl, and pulled dinner from the freezer. Then he did something small, something simple, maybe walked outside again. Perhaps Kelly barked at a noise across the road. Perhaps Paddy spotted new flowers in Fran's garden, which he reportedly liked to interfere with. Whatever it was, something drew him out again. He left behind his hat, his wallet, and his quad bike. In Larimer, that suggests he wasn't planning to go far. Just across the street, just for a minute. It was enough. Means the hammer. A hammer is not an unusual tool for a gardener, but it becomes chilling when a man is heard, in his own home, off guard, saying, "Hit him with a effing hammer. Struck him on the effing nostrils with me claw hammer." That line isn't a threat, it's a replay. There's no physical evidence that confirms a hammer was used. No blood, no hair, no weapon recovered. But that absence fits the scene. Police said Paddy's house showed no sign of struggle. That suggests the confrontation happened elsewhere. Outdoors, possibly on Fran's property or in the yard. A hammer would be consistent with a fast, brutal encounter. A single strike could be fatal. And a hammer, unlike a gun or knife, is easy to dispose of. The man on tape says confidently, "They didn't find a hammer. They can't get me for anything." He may be right. What happened to the dog? Kelly is the silent witness in this story, and her disappearance might be the most damning fact of all. In cases of misadventure or voluntary departure, dogs are often found nearby or return on their own. That never happened. From the beginning, police emphasized her absence. As local mechanic Mark Rayner put it, "Find the dog, you find Paddy, we think." But no one ever did. In one of the secret recordings, the voice believed to be Laurie states bluntly, "I kill pup dogs." There's no elaboration, no explanation, just a chilling admission that, if true, explains why Kelly was never seen again. She was silenced, either during or after the attack on Paddy. Body disposal. This is where the case slips into silence. No remains have ever been found. Not of Paddy, not of Kelly. That's not for lack of effort. Police searched over 85 square kilometers of bushland. They used cadaver dogs. They sifted through dump fires and wells. So where did the bodies go? Owen Laurie was a former bushman and rodeo worker. He knew the land. He likely knew spots no officer or dog ever reached. He may have used a disused mine shaft. He may have buried Paddy far enough into the scrub that no one stumbled upon it. He may have, as some suggest, burned the remains in an oil drum. Burning a body completely is extremely difficult, but in the right circumstances, it can destroy key evidence. In one recording, the man says, "You're not finding out what happened." So far, he's been right. Why not someone else? What about other townsfolk? Paddy clashed with several people, sure, but none of them left behind rambling monologues. None had an active, escalating conflict at the time of his disappearance. None were known to have threatened murder in advance, or described it in detail afterward. Cookie Burke, the town hermit, openly said he disliked Paddy, but he was cleared. Others had minor spats, but no motive, no means, no proximity. What about a stranger, a traveller off the highway? There's no evidence anyone suspicious was in Larimer that night. No passing vehicles matched any unusual description. Everyone accounted for was questioned. What about an accident? A sinkhole, a stroke in the scrub? Unlikely, because Kelly vanished too. Dogs don't fall into sinkholes and never surface. They don't die quietly beside their owners and get buried too. Only one theory explains both disappearances: the lack of a struggle, the lack of blood, and the confidence of someone bragging that they won't find anything. What about Fran? There's no direct evidence that Fran Hodgetts participated in any violence, but the feud that likely ended Paddy's life was hers. She admitted she often said she'd kill him, but insisted it was just a manner of speaking. When asked about the infamous pie rumours, she dismissed them. "No, I couldn't do that. I only do camel, buffalo, and crocodile, not human." A man named Wayne Ledwidge told the inquest he once overheard Fran offering someone $10,000 to get rid of Paddy. She denied it. The alleged recipient is deceased. The most plausible role Fran played was as a catalyst. It's possible Laurie, who was intensely loyal to her, acted on his own, unprompted but emboldened. It's also possible Fran suspected what happened and chose to say nothing. The coroner stopped short of accusing her, but he placed a feud at the heart of the case. And legally or not, morally or not, the feud was hers.